Repair is the most important skill I recommend in any long-term relationship. If you're going to spend any time anywhere on anything, it's repair. Because the assertion here is that conflict is going to happen in a long-term relationship for the rest of your life, off and on. And if that's true, then you may as well get damn good at the repair process.
Jayson Gaddis. What's up, brother?
What's up, Brian? Great
Welcome.
to see you, man.
Great to see you. As I was saying before we started recording, man, we've been in each other's circle more or less for a long time now. I mean, a decade plus, I think. But
yeah, I think so.
We've yet to meet in person, so I'm looking forward to that very soon.
Me too, brother.
Yeah, yep. Man. And we introduce you to Tait. Jayson, I don't know if you know, but Tait, not only is he my co-host, he's also my childhood best friend of 40 years.
Wow. That's legit.
Pleasure to meet you, man. I've heard great things. And when Brian says great things about a man, I perk up, and he's been talking about you for quite a while.
Cool. Tait, that's amazing. You guys must have a deep brotherhood over there.
We do.
It's very special, man. I know how rare it is. And you know, the amount of trust and safety that we have with each other it's rare for men. So yeah, it's a gift. And it's fun to get to do this and have conversations like this, and you know, with you and with Tait. So yeah, it's a privilege to get to do it this way, man.
Yeah, super cool.
So just welcome you for our audience. Our guest today is Jayson Gaddis. It's Jayson with a Y, the way you're supposed to spell Jayson, right?
That's right.
You know, the third letter should be a Y, like Brian, Jayson, third letter's a Y.
Come on,
appropriate.
Everybody.
Psychotherapist, author, and founder of the Relationship School. Jayson's spent over 2 decades helping people navigate the messy, beautiful, and often uncomfortable terrain of human connection. Whether he's working with couples, leading workshops, or reaching listeners through his podcast. What's your podcast name, Jayson?
Relationship Coaching School.
Relationship Coaching School. Okay. Jayson brings, and this is a fact, brings raw, no-nonsense approach to emotional growth and relational intelligence. Again, Jayson, welcome to what is now Bridging Connections podcast, actually.
Yeah, I like that. Bridging Connections from Men This Way.
That's right. Used to be Men This Way. In fact, I was looking back at I think you've been on the podcast twice before. You were actually episode number 9, man.
Nice.
And it was the title of that is a really good one. The Emotionally Unavailable Man. That was a hit.
Oh, we had fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That was an early hit.
Fun. The Emotionally Unavailable Man.
Yeah. Brian and I got to talk about our emotional ineptitude back in the day.
Because now we're emotional masters.
We're on the summit,
right?
we should bring your partners in just to confirm.
Well, totally. Exactly. But before we dive into, we're going to be talking about relationship conflict today, and of course the masters that we all are at relationship conflict, and all of the expertise that we have to offer. Also, for our listeners, Jayson is the author of the book Getting to Zero, which we're going to talk about today. And what that means. It's about relationship conflict, how to do it well. But before we dive into that, Jayson, just what is something that's just completely ordinary about your life right now?
I took my daughter to school today. We had a very quiet drive listening to Taylor Swift.
Okay.
And
on the way there or on the way back?
On the way there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I listen to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Car, so it's
curious.
Yeah, I love Taylor Swift.
No shade.
And yeah, just had a beautiful morning making the kids breakfast, helping them get ready for their day. And it's kind of like chop wood, carry water. You know, each day is this just practice of unloading the dishwasher and getting all the shit out for breakfast. And it's a team effort. Sometimes I'm doing more of the work. Sometimes they're doing more of the work. Usually my wife is working out or doing her fitness thing.
Jayson, are you able to distinguish between peace and boredom?
Ooh, let me chew on that for a second. Yeah, I think so. If I can take a stab at it, I'm curious what you guys would say too. Peace might be this feeling of equanimity. I think of the exhale and feeling really good in my body and like things are working. Boredom is a sense of, I gotta do something. I'm distracted. I'm I'm not in my heart, probably in my head, and I feel more angsty and less pleasant to be around.
Well, I ask because we're going to have this conversation on conflict. And I know one of the things that I have struggled with, right, it just in my life is that when there's not something hot and, exciting happening, I sometimes can't distinguish the difference between those two. It's just like everything seems fine, but I'm like, wait a minute, do I need something crazy to happen right now? Or maybe I should just breathe and relax and enjoy this. And I'm getting better at it. But I know that some relationships are in the middle of, if they're not in conflict, they don't know how to be with the peace. And so they will drum it up sometimes.
Really good point. Yep.
Tate, as you ask that question, what occurs to me is a great question, because I'm in my home in Austin right now alone. I've been here alone for like 2 weeks. My wife is in LA. We're apart for about this month while we're trying to sell our home. And so I got a lot of emptiness going on. And it's a really great question, because one of the battles that I'm in this time, I don't have my wife, I don't have my dog, there's a lot of energy in my space normally. And I'm in that battle right now between what I'm really feeling a lot of call to is stillness and quiet and reflection and rest. And, there's a peacefulness in that, but there's also Netflix and video games and VR and porn and alcohol. Like, there's all kinds of other distractions that also, and it's like, I feel bored when I need something to stimulate me, when I'm feeling the need to be filled from the outside. So give me something. I'm antsy, I'm bored, versus like, oh man, just going to be still, going to rest, going to reflect, drink my coffee. Like, that's not boredom. That feels like peace.
Yeah.
So that's kind
I like
of the
that
distinction for me.
And almost I heard self-connection in there with that.
Totally.
And then Tate's comment about people drumming up conflict, for example, because they're bored or they're uncomfortable with stillness or peace, right? So they'll start a war. I have the place in me as a fast-moving, ambitious, neurotic guy that that almost has an addiction to stress. So the stillness can be uncomfortable because I want the stress in my body, the cortisol running through my body is like feels normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Would you say in terms of relationship conflict is your default position? Let's just say there's fighter, flighter, fleer or freezer, peaser. Are you more a fighter then?
I am. Yep. Yeah, I'm more of a fighter. Let's talk it out. Let's hurry up and get this done. Yep.
I think we have 3 fighters on this.
Uh-oh.
On this call.
And are we all with partners who might distance and flee or get quiet? Or...
My wife is half Mexican, half Italian, and all fire. So, we can, she is certainly more appeasing than I can be at times, but she has her moments where she can bowl me over too. So, we're a little bit of a dance in my world.
Right on.
Yeah. And my wife is Armenian, which basically means she's Italian. And all same, man. She doesn't back down from anything. So
it gets interesting. Like, my wife is more withdraw, quiet.
Okay.
Yep.
We want to talk about conflict today, right? And getting to zero. And now you describe zero as a place of connection and safety. But so many people, I work a lot around with that word safety. I put that word on the table for a lot of couples that have never really known what that word even really means, or especially men, but certainly women too. What does it feel like to be at zero in a relationship? Like, how would someone know, like, this is what safety, this is what zero feels like?
Yeah, it's that place where we just feel good and connected. And that's kind of the simplest way to describe it is we are good. There's no issue going on. We feel like we're a team rowing in the same direction. And the vibe is kind of clean, and clear between us.
So simple.
Simple, hard to get to, right? And stay in. I think it's impossible to stay in. So we don't want that to be our goal, as you guys know.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy, right? To the couples that think they can be in a relationship with zero conflict. That's not the zero I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think that's really important to point out. It's one of the things that I'll often remind people, or maybe say it for the first time, is like, if you're really being honest with each other, you're going to have conflict. You're going to disagree about things. You're going to step on each other's toes accidentally. You're going to say unskillful things that are going to have a negative impact.
It's just part of human beings bumping up against each other. And when you partner with someone long-term, we understand this, but people who don't understand psychology and human beings don't understand, which is when you pair bond or you live with someone for years, it starts to mimic the family of origin. And so all of that old relationship blueprint stuff comes out. How we did conflict, how we did stress, how we did sharing, how we shared space, who was clean and who was dirty. Like, it just all is there for us to deal with. And so, of course, there's going to be tension at times.
Jayson, you talk about the three invisible forces that shape our relationships. Can you walk through them? Maybe give an example of how they play out?
I mean, the only thing I would say in this moment about sort of the invisible stuff at play is our nervous system, where you and I move in together, Tait. We can see each other, touch each other. You're right there, I'm right here. But there's this whole other thing going on, like the conversation below the conversation, which is what's happening between our nervous systems. And for us sensitive types like me, there's a lot going on in relationship to other humans in here. And if I'm not aware of that, like as a guy, I was trained out of that, any kind of awareness or contact with that part of myself. So I did my best to shove my sensitivity down and bury it and never make it look like I was sensitive. Yeah. But the whole time it was there under this big wall. And so it comes out as like irritability and agitation and grumpiness, but I had no language for it. So it's this invisible force kind of operating under the surface. And as we get awareness, we can have a little more choice about what happens there.
I guess I remember maybe it was around, I think that your nervous system being one, and maybe that's in some ways what you're kind of speaking to here. Yeah. Your past was the second one, and maybe your default conflict style, which is how we started this conversation.
Yeah, thanks. Exactly. So all of us are, as you guys know, coming into a relationship with a load of baggage.
Yeah.
And we just bring that to the relationship, for better or worse. It just is there. And it's, or all of our relational history and how we do stress with people is just there. So, and how we share. And again, if you're aware of your history, it helps a little bit, because you can at least say, gosh, I'm kind of like this because, and then your partner doesn't have to take that so personally. Yeah. If you're not aware of it, it's harder. So I just think it's important to acknowledge history's operating, whether you want it to or not.
Yeah. One of the things that you just shared that I think is really powerful, we actually, we're just having this exact conversation in the men's group that we run, Elevate 25, the year-long program. And one of the guys was kind of talking about this, and I could really relate to it. And you just kind of called it out, which is really owning how sensitive that we are as men. Mm-hmm. And one, how much I think vulnerability it takes to really acknowledge that. And secondarily, how much power there is for us when we finally are willing to acknowledge that. So can you just talk more, maybe even about your own experience as being a sensitive man, or whether or not you actually also think that is true in many ways for many men, but we maybe block that part of ourselves off? What's your opinion about that?
Hell yeah. I'm curious what you guys think too. Yes is my answer. We're I think all men are sensitive, unless they're kind of sociopathically deeply cut off from that, which of course we see. But it's so bad, apparently, in male conditioning to be a sensitive boy or man. And so we do our best to not cry, not show any level of vulnerability. And while I think a lot of guys are getting better at this in the world, thanks to guys like you, there's still, most guys are at odds with themselves and their own sensitivity. And it's a superpower in a marriage or as a parent. And it's as even a leader or being on a team, to being able to tune in to others and like feel into others and to empathize and to give a shit and to, feel feelings. And I think it's really necessary to be successful and to have fulfilling relationships. It's necessary to kind of awaken that and get in touch with it and utilize it as a strength. But the conditioning's strong.
Yeah.
I was working with a guy just this morning, actually, Tate, from our Elevate Your Relationship program. We were talking about, his wife does this thing where she'll just quickly disconnect. Okay, bye, I gotta go. Bye. Just that. That's simple. And it seems like it's like nothing, but it's really, it affects him. Mm-hmm. And, and I think the tendency for us men, for him, for us men, for me too, is like to act with anger. Don't fucking do that. Stop that. Don't do that. I don't like it. To either control or to shut down. Withdraw, be like, I don't like that, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm not a pussy. Whatever. Mm-hmm. And, as we just examined it a little closer, it's like he experienced that growing up in his home, that sudden disconnect, the sudden drop from a parent that gets echoed out. It's like an echo in the way that his wife is doing that. And, I get passionate about the sensitivity of men because I think because of the stereotype that we're not sensitive, that we're insensitive. Men are so fucking sensitive.
Yeah.
We've just covered over it with so much armor because we've been abused for our sensitivity usually by other men, women too. Right. So it's like when we can uncover that, and even helping this man kind of get to a place where he can say, my dad used to do that to me and it really hurts. So when you do it, it reminds me of that. So what would really be helpful is, could you just maybe slow that transition down a little bit? Just tell me you love me, and just take a breath. Like that would really help me.
Yeah. Amen. And so many guys make themselves wrong. So it's hard to even do what you're asking, right? It's like, I'm wrong for how sensitive. I shouldn't be this sensitive. And what's my problem? Right. And
that's right.
I don't want to be that husband. And it's emasculating and just layers here.
Jayson, one of the reasons why Bryan and I were really intentional about changing the name of our podcast to Bridging Connections is because there's a whole world that lives inside of disconnection. Mm-hmm. And we can only, and we still are oriented in most of our work towards working with men, but let's take this real practical. I want these kinds of conversation to be really practical. And in the spirit of Bridging Connections, I have kind of two questions for you. What do you think that a man could do to really own his sensitivity in a way that doesn't leave him feeling weak or needy or less of as a man inside of an intimate conversation with his partner? And what the second question is, what could the female partner, the feminine partner do to really invite more sensitivity in the the relationship where the guy has really cut part of that off inside of himself because he's learned that it's not safe to do so?
Oh, wow. Well, I think the couple has to be a team about this and approach this like, hey, and acknowledge how we've done it in the past, which is, hey, we both have been in a relationship where, and this could be the man talking, we both have been in a relationship, honey, where I have stuffed my sensitivity and you've agreed. We both have kind of said, yeah, that's probably better if that's tucked away. And I wouldn't say that if my wife has been a champion for my sensitivity, of course. But sometimes the wife can collude and not even know that they're participating in him stuffing it.
Yep.
So we got to have a conversation like, is it cool if I'm a sensitive partner? And are you okay with me speaking up when things hurt, saying something when it feels bad, owning when I am feeling something that you're not saying? Is that going to be okay? Is that welcome here? and honey, I want to welcome your sensitivity because I know you're sensitive too in your own way. And can we just make room for that here? And so I think a couple can contextually upgrade their relationship by having a welcoming attitude. Another thing a guy can do first, he might have to do this first, which is admit to himself that he's sensitive in the mirror, look in the mirror and just say out loud, I'm a sensitive man. I am a sensitive person. Breathe, feel. Next, do that with another man or maybe your partner if you don't have guys that you're close with in your life. And start coming out of the closet that you're quite sensitive and that's okay with you.
Yeah.
And you're working on accepting that. And so can the people around you, can you invite them into also welcoming it and accepting it and embracing it and cheerleading it and all that?
Yeah. Thank you. That's beautiful.
I love that. I chuckled when you say come out of the closet, right? Because that's like, again, just traditionally, obviously that's associated with being homosexual. And obviously men, you know, we have all kinds of issues wrapped up in that, all kinds of homophobia and all that. Like, and yet, you know, this is a way in which so many men are in the damn closet as well, just hiding a profound sensitivity.
Yeah. And then we miss out, right? There's something profound about male to male connections that you obviously help guys with that is so awesome. If we can welcome that part of ourselves into relationships, it's just, it takes relationships to another level.
Jayson, what do you wish that people, and this is on both sides, right? But what do you wish that people understood about emotional safety that most still miss?
That it's a two-person system we're dealing with that not sure I create my own emotional safety to feel my own emotions on the meditation cushion or when I'm journaling or I'm on a walk. I might have safety to just feel in my own privacy. There's like I can create that for myself. But there's something more powerful, I think, when we can share it and it's a collaborative thing that we co-create. Like, hey, can we have the kind of relationship where it's emotionally safe to express everything here? Express who we are, express how we feel, anger, rage, sadness, grief, devastation, despair, resentment, all the stuff. I don't know. I like to think that we're all authors to create the kind of relationships we want. So that should be one of the pillars.
I think it's an interesting word, safety. I think most men, especially, we think of safety as like, well, nobody's beating each other.
Right.
So we're fine. What do you mean safe? What do you mean you don't feel safe? What do you mean, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And yet, oh man, so many men just don't feel safe, but they wouldn't be able to acknowledge it because, again, we're in the closet, right?
That's right.
Pretending I got this, pretending everything's okay. And, you know, it's always a revelation, I think, that men also don't feel safe in relationships. So I think that's so important to acknowledge and talk about.
Yeah. And can a man, he might need to start by saying, again, a sentence stem or a sentence he can say is, I don't feel safe to express my emotions here in this context. And work would be an obvious place where it's not that safe usually.
Right. Yeah.
Or on the battlefield or playing a sport, it's fine. There's certain contexts where being emotional is not going to go well.
Totally.
We all do need to suck it up sometimes. And we need a place to fall apart and to feel fully and to express it, and not just alone, to be witnessed and held in it. It could be a therapist's office or working with you guys as a coach. It could be with my partner. You know, ideally, our closest relationships, we have full freedom and we feel emotionally safe in our inner circle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things that we would do well to learn as men, one of the concepts that we work with is how important it is for us as men to be able to embrace intimacy, the intimacy that's happening on the inside of us. And one of the challenges is that if you ask many men what they feel, they will tell you what they think.
Yeah.
And if we are willing to discuss our emotions, we have a tendency to minimize them. Oh, I'm feeling a little anxious. I'm feeling a little angry. I'm feeling a little frustrated.
Right.
I'm, just a little tiny bit
A little
afraid.
off. Yeah.
Whatever the little, but that one of the things that we would be well to learn is the same way that we are minimizing our feelings on a regular basis. When our partner comes to us, if we are minimizing theirs, if we're dismissing theirs, if we're dismissing their concerns or their needs or their desires, or minimizing them in any way, that we are also not having them feel safe, because the
Big
fullness of what they're bringing isn't able to be held, then therefore the fullness of who they are isn't able to be held as well.
I liked what you said about minimizing. I think the dial of how much we allow ourselves to feel and express is directly proportional to how much we train our partner to feel and express. So if I'm a minimizer and I'm like, I don't feel a lot, chances are I'm creating an environment where my partner is going to not feel that much because she doesn't feel like I can handle it. Right. Bryan and I think talked about this on our first podcast.
It's also, I what I experienced, because we do these check-ins in our men's groups, and men do it all, well, they do it all the time until they've learned through our coaching, just noticing the minimization. And when they stop doing that, the power. I notice a man feels more powerful when he can just say, I feel anger.
Yeah.
And rather than I'm a little bit angry, or I feel hungry, I feel horny, I feel, right, just that embracing of, I feel anxious. There's something powerful in just owning what is true for me in this moment, without qualification, without, explanation, without just all those things.
It's very direct. It helps me relax when I hear you say that, because you're telling me, just a very clear one sentence, no apology. This is just what's going on with me. And I'm like, bam, I immediately know what's up with you.
It's like you can trust that.
Yeah.
Right. You can trust, okay, Brian's telling me what's going on for him. I can trust in that, rather than, and I think this is, it's interesting, in my world of minimizing, what I always, because I'm high conflict, I always chose high conflict women. My shutting down didn't shut them down. It just made them fucking angrier. I always just was faced with angry. It's like they would feel the anger I wasn't willing to.
Yeah, that's really common in a partnership. Yeah, we're asking other people to do emotional labor also, not just unconsciously express, but we're also asking them to kind of do the work of the emotions. And I just think we're in 2025, guys. Like, we have to learn how to feel in families and partnerships now. It's just like a requirement.
Jayson, you offer a real clear, powerful kind of step-by-step repair process. And could you do maybe two things here? One is to kind of walk through what that repair process is, and then actually speak to if someone could only remember one thing from that model, as a way of tweaking how they do repair, what that would be. And I just to give the context here, one of the models that Bryan and I work on is that in healthy relationships, every relationship goes through a naturally occurring cycle. They start in harmony, they move to disharmony, and then they need to move to repair. And in the unhealthy relationships, they either get stuck in this constant harmony because they're not really talking about it, or they're in constant they're in constant disharmony, which is like Bryan uses this term. They're like two rams on a mountainside constantly banging heads together.
Yep.
So clearly the key is in the repair. So could you kind of dive deep into your thoughts and your process about that?
Yeah, I'll try to give just a couple practical, super actionable tips here. And let's just quickly start with context that repair is the most important skill I recommend in any long-term relationship. If you're going to spend any time anywhere on anything in therapy, coaching, podcasts to listen to, it's repair. How do I repair? Because the assertion here is that conflict is going to happen in a long-term relationship for the rest of your life, off and on. And if that's true, then you may as well get damn good at the repair process.
Yeah.
And I think it's true. That's just been my experience. There's no running away from the hard stuff. So repair helps us get back to a good place. That's the definition of a repair. Is it's a process that helps us get back to feeling good again. That's it. And so how do we do that? First, again, we have to have the attitude that conflict isn't a problem. I got to double down on repair. And I would recommend 3 things, just 3 simple things you can do. First, you've got to either talk or listen, right? We're either going to initiate the repair by talking, or we're going to initiate the repair by listening. Those are our options. That's kind of it. And within those 2 choices, if I'm going to talk, I'm going to lead with ownership. So I did raise my voice. I didn't text you back. I screwed up here. My bad. I did that. I did the thing that pissed you off, that hurt you. So ownership is in talking or listening. So that's talking. And then if we're still talking, we say, and I can imagine the impact on you was blank. That's empathy. And then the third step is validation. So I raised my voice, and I can imagine the impact on you was that you felt scared and hurt. And validation is, and that makes sense. Your feelings make sense.
So pause for a second, because this is one that I know a lot of us get tripped up over. That the belief, the thought, the fear that validation means I agree with it.
Yeah, correct. Not right. That's the incorrect. That's what people do, though, Brian. You're right. Is guys especially, well, if I can't validate her feelings, because that means she's right and I'm wrong. Right? So we're not saying that. We're saying everybody here, the man and the woman in this case, has an experience, and it's 100% valid. Which has nothing to do with right and wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So that's the talking part. And listening is the same 3 things, just done differently. So listening is, my wife talks and tells me, Jayson, you raised your voice. It really hurt me. It sucked. And I'm going to add actually one thing. So I reflect back. Honey, it sounds like, according to what you're saying, I raised my voice. I acted like a jerk there. So I just want to make sure I get the essence. And you felt hurt. Is that right? Yes. Okay, that makes sense. So I do the validation thing. And then I own. I just say, yeah, I did raise my voice. And then I empathize as much as I can. Wow, that sucks. And gosh, that's hard for you. Just that alone, if doing any of these things, ownership, empathy, validation, reflecting back a little bit, will take the conversation down a notch. Guaranteed.
And look, man, I want to stay here for a moment, because I'm chuckling again, because I'm thinking of my own past experience. I'm thinking of someone I was working with just recently, who's similarly, his wife says, he thinks he's talking normal, and to him, his wife he's raising his voice. I've experienced that. I think Tait, I think of that relationship, back when I was in Miami, and 5 years of fucking torture and hell, mutually so, both of us. We tortured each other. And that one thing, had someone really taught me that validating does not have to mean agreeing with, could have been game changing. I think my whole life would look different. I don't even know if I'd be doing this work right now, because that relationship probably would have been a lot better. And I wouldn't see the need to do this work.
Tell me about it. And so many guys defend themselves, right? Somewhere in the process, like especially in the listening process, my wife starts telling me all the things I did wrong yesterday or in the fight, and she's telling me, kind of coming at me with some blame. I immediately just want to defend myself. I didn't do that. That's not what happened. And that's going to go nowhere, right? But guys will keep doing it, even though it goes nowhere, and it makes it worse.
Or even saying, well, that's not what I meant.
Exactly. That wasn't my intention.
That's not what I meant to do. Yeah. I didn't intend for you to feel that way.
Yeah. It's all defensiveness. It's all in the same bucket.
Yeah.
So instead, we just say, honey, it sounds like you got upset because X, Y, and Z happened. And then you got blank, hurt, sad, angry. That makes sense because I did do the thing. I participated in this.
Yeah. That part right there, the intent versus impact, I remember early in my relationship with Sylvie, I had written something on Facebook, had nothing to do with her, but she didn't like it. And I remember she told me so. And I remember I spent 10 minutes explaining to her why
Exactly.
why she shouldn't feel that way, because XYZ. And she let me talk for a good 10 minutes. And then when I finished, I was like, okay, case made, right? She's like, Bryan, nothing you just said makes any difference to my feelings.
Yeah, not a damn thing.
Just like,
I love Sylvie.
Dude, you're
so
like me.
much.
I'm a slow learner. This happened to me just a couple of weeks ago. Like I just defend, and my wife's just quietly listening. And a sense of humor, of course. I mean, we're laughing, the
Oh,
three of
yeah.
us right now. Like it gets so intense and so serious that
Yeah.
can we have a little bit of a sense of humor here, that this is hard. We're not taught this stuff. We're like white belts. Even me and maybe you guys, with all my experience, I still fall down. Of course.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Tate, just want to give you and I some props right now, because I think that's one thing we do well in our work with men. We laugh a lot. And it's not an arrogant laughter. It's not a critical like we're laughing at women. No. We're laughing at the insanity of the whole setup.
Right.
Often,
Yeah.
and the futility of thinking we're ever going to solve all these problems. It is a comedy of sorts.
It is.
And I'm blessed, Sylvie and I also, I think that's key. Good laughter chemistry with your spouse. I was married in my 20s to a French woman. We did not have good laughter chemistry. It was a fucking nightmare.
Right. That's tough.
That was really tough.
That's tough. I'm curious, for you guys, what's the biggest maneuver in your marriage for repair? Like is there one lever that moves it for your partner more than another?
What would you say, Tate, for you?
Oh man, I think when I can really own my part, I think that is the biggest, because my tendency is to defend, right? It's like, what was that? Well, there's two parts to this. One is when my tendency is when I feel attacked, I go to the Dumber and Dumber scene when she picks up the snowball, and it's the one little snowball, and then comes back with 17 snowballs smacked. Like that's my typical approach. So first and foremost, on the offensive side, if I can just do my best not to throw 17 snowballs and do my best just to throw the one, it's hard enough just not to throw the one. I think I'm making progress.
Nice.
And then when I can really own own that I did what she said I did, and that I'm sorry for it. Like just trying to go there. So it is that two part for me, slowing down on the attack back and really looking at my wife is impacted here. And I have two choices. I can minimize it or ignore it, or I can just own, man, I don't want my wife to be hurt.
Yeah, I love that snowball scene. It's such a great descriptor for that, Tate. And knowing you so long, yeah, dude, you fucking throw hard. You throw a snowball, you throw hard. Man, for me, it's it really just starts with being quiet, not opening my mouth. Honestly, just like listening a little bit, just allowing there to be a little bit of space, because usually our conflicts get started when she's upset about something. I tend to not, I mean, it's not so true anymore because I've worked a lot with my own upset and my own, connected to my own needs a lot. But typically, like, if she's good, I'm good. The whole happy wife, happy life kind of thing.
Right.
Like, she's fine, we're fine. So, but oftentimes, she'll say something. If I take issue with it and I begin to speak, we're already in conflict. So if she says something and I can just sort of take a breath, and let her, if she's got more to say, let her believe, let her have whatever story she's telling, let her just go through whatever she's needing to go through. A lot of times she's just venting. She just needs to get it out. She doesn't need my fucking opinion on this. She doesn't need my pushback. She doesn't need my challenge. She doesn't need my explanation. She doesn't need, oftentimes in my marriage, she just needs me to fucking listen.
Yep.
That's it. And sometimes I'll never forget Stephen Colbert. the comedian and a late night show host, he in one of his audience kind of Q&As, right? I remember seeing a video of this. Someone asked him, he's been married to Edie, his wife, forever. They're Catholic. They have 38 kids probably, and they have fun. They seem to have a really nice marriage. And someone asked him, what's the secret? And he said, and you, just like you said, Jason, the way he said it was just get good. Just learn to apologize. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it just sounds like, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm really sorry I did that.
Yeah.
And that sticks with me a lot, because sometimes with Sylvie, that's all it takes is me to shut up, hear her out, and just say, I'm sorry. And we're done.
It's huge, because the apology doesn't work for everybody. And it's, you got to celebrate it if it works in your relationship, because sometimes that's all it takes is a breath and like listening and just, God, I'm sorry. Yeah. And a genuine sorry is like moves mountains. And for other people, they're like, I've heard it too many times. Right. It's just like, you say that shit all the time. It's meaningless because you're not getting the impact. You haven't owned anything.
Yeah.
You
keep doing the thing. You keep doing the thing.
Yeah, you keep doing the thing. Like, and then he's in shame because he keeps doing it. And I'm so sorry. And his head's down. That kind of apology obviously doesn't work as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Jason, one of the three of us are fighters, clearly, or, we're more likely to lean into that place. And some of the listeners here are in the place where they believe that it's more important to keep the peace than to rock the boat. And they err on the other side. They either freeze or they flight from conflict. I guess.
Yeah. Like the three of us, we'll set the boat on fire. We don't give a damn. Yeah. We'll set it on fire if it would go down with the ship.
Yeah.
Like Tait. Yeah. Don't rock the boat is the other side of that.
So what is your message to the people who equate conflict with danger? And what is a way to help those folks lean in a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, I'd validate their feelings by saying, yeah, that makes sense. Of course you're scared because it's uncomfortable. It's scary. It's not fun and all the things, right? And then I would say, it's the avoidance of conflict that strangely creates more conflict. And so here's what I mean by that. Whenever we have something we could say and we should say, and we're like, we're kind of sitting on it, and we're like, well, I don't want to rock the boat, so I'll just be quiet. I'll just let this slide. That's going to eventually turn into a resentment, right? Especially if it's a repeating thing. And so I have two choices in that moment, and we'll call them choice A and B. Choice A is speak up, and probably it's not going to go well, so I don't really like choice A, so I'll just be quiet. And then I, by default, choose choice B, which is to be quiet and not say anything. And the advantage to choice B, the guys that avoid conflict have it set up like this is, well, I'm not going to make it worse. It won't turn into a fight. Mm-hmm. And so it's cool. So that's choice B. And B is business as usual, or the strange thing is you keep the relationship, but you betray yourself. Choice A is the worst case scenario is I speak up and lose the relationship. Choice B is I don't speak up and keep the relationship, but I lose the relationship with myself. And so guys sit on the fence in this kind of double bind that I call two shitty choices. And they don't do anything, which is basically choice B. So I'm always saying, dude, you got to see the benefit. You want to advocate as a champion for the relationship. This is going to help the relationship. And so I'm going to speak up, and I might lose the relationship. Of course, that's worst case scenario. Probably it's just going to be uncomfortable for a little while. But you're advocating for yourself, you're advocating for your partner, and you're advocating for the relationship. So, that hopefully could motivate a man out there listening.
Yeah. Or a woman for that matter, who's tending in that space, which is just to not rock the boat, acquiesce. But your point around how that ends up building resentment because her voice is never heard. It's critical that, and to the point that you're making, that this is a two-way street. This is a partnership. If the guy is like us, it just goes to show that, there are moments for us to be leaning in and to saying, listen, I have a tendency to overwhelm and to bring a lot of conflict. And I want to do better to hear what you have to say about what's going on with us. And how can I do that? What are some things that I could do to create more space? What rituals can we have on a daily or weekly basis that can invite you to talk about things that are concerns for you that I don't always make the space for?
Nice. Yeah. And your voice, honey, matters to me. I care about hearing what's on your heart and what's in your mind. And the people that stuff have to remember, like, you're making yourself sick, like literally long term. People
Yeah.
who stuff, I mean, Gabor Mate writes about this, that you're gonna not do as well long term if you just continue to stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this also, one of the things I love talking about when we get into this subject is leadership, like even masculine leadership. What does that mean? I think there's a great misunderstanding in the world. I think most people look at masculine leadership. It's like, the man leads, he makes the shots, he makes the decisions, and woman submits
Right.
and trusts that he knows what he's doing. And I think that's a load of horse shit for the most part. I think that
Amen.
true leadership in this domain means, like the way I language it is like leading in the direction of love, leading in the direction of connection. So, what, like you said, Jayson, shutting down, stuffing poisons myself. It also poisons the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And leading means, and again, I love you said it beautifully. It's like leading means, look, I care what's happening for me and I'm going to speak to that. And I also care what's happening for you. And I want to make space for that. Like we both get to be in the room.
Yeah.
Both our sensitivities, both our needs. And yeah, it's messy. It's like we got to let it fall apart a little bit rather than hope it never falls apart, because that's what safety looks like. It's almost paradoxical. It's like the willingness to let things be messy is what actually keeps the relationship vibrant and alive.
Well, not only that, I love that, is this creates, it's conflict and repair that actually creates security in the foundation of any relationship.
I get chills because even in my friendships, like the men that I can throw down with in a moment respectfully, but we can, even if we get to the go fuck yourself, but when we can repair from that really quick and both say, dude, I'm so sorry, I went too far, my bad. Obviously not cruel. I'm not talking about cruelty. That's a whole other thing, but moments of unskillfulness. So I am so enrolled in that, like through conflict are forged when you can repair well.
Yeah.
That's gold for me.
Yeah, me too. Amen. And that comes from the research, really, the work of Ed Tronick and what they learned about mother-infant relationships, that it's the mismatch, he calls it, when the mother and the baby are off, because there's thousands of those throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because no parent is perfect and you can't be there all the time.
Yeah.
But the research showed that it's the willingness for the parent to come back and get back into connection with the kid after they've raised their voice, after they've scared the kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's that over and over repetition that builds strength and trust and resiliency, honestly, in the relationship. And it's parents who have we don't do conflict here. I mean, you're raising fragile kids who are going to not know how to deal with adversity in life. So this is like multi-layered benefits to learning how to do conflict.
Powerful.
So good. Tate, you want to do this little rapid relationship?
Yeah, we got some rapid fire questions for you, Jayson.
Bring it.
So here's the scenario. Your partner shuts down during an argument. What do you do in that moment that you notice your partner shutting down?
I either give space and let it happen, or I demonstrate my care by saying, hey, I see you're hurting over there. I care about you and I'm here when you're ready to connect or talk.
So you don't keep trying to solve, you don't keep trying to nail the solution into the relational space.
No. I tried that, didn't work very well for me.
I know, me too.
So second one, you're feeling disconnected, but you don't really want to seem needy. How do you start the conversation?
Usually when I feel disconnected, I feel scared. So I say, the most vulnerable thing I can say is, honey, I feel scared. And I don't even know what I'm scared about, but I just know that I'm a little disconnected and scared. And I'm trying to call myself forward here so I don't disappear on us and on you.
I love that, because I think, Tate, I'm thinking again of some of the guys we're working with, and it's one of so many men, we just want to withdraw, because again, exposing our sensitivity, we just get blasted, in the past. And so showing up with that sensitivity is like, why would I do that? And I think that's, what you just modeled. And I think this is one of the great things about men's groups is you get to practice that in a trustable group of men. You can practice showing up with your sensitivity and being celebrated for that, not made fun of.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. Now you're the one that messed up. You're the one that made the mistake. What's the first sentence out of your mouth?
I messed up. I screwed up here, honey.
Yeah. So that's simple.
But not easy.
Simple, but not easy.
Simple, but not easy. Okay. You're on the receiving end of your partner using some vulnerability against you, right? You've shared something in the past or you've shared something in the past and your partner uses that vulnerability against you. How do you handle that?
If it just happened, hey, honey, that just felt really bad over here. I'm guessing that wasn't your intention, but I feel really missed, hurt, and kind of alone right now. And I'm open to a conversation, but I'm totally in reaction over here.
Yeah. Great. So here's the last one for you. Say that, somebody is on the end of or maybe a fight has just happened. They are super activated. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They know that if they re-engage, it could go 1,000 different ways. What is the thing that person who's activated needs to do to head towards getting back to zero?
Oh man. I guess it depends on if they want to do it together or alone. So alone would be the breath, like just take some breaths. Text a friend. I am fucking activated. I want to blow a gasket right now.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help. I could do that with the person I'm triggered by, but that might make it worse. So I've got to maybe calculate that. But we do tend to regulate faster together than we do alone. So depending on the agreements and partnership and stuff, I might utilize my partner and say the same kind of things. I might not if it's not safe to do so.
Beautiful. There's 1,000 rapid fire questions that I could ask you. You're clearly super gifted at this. And one of the things that I really admire and respect about your approach is how much you believe that conflict is a necessity. It's part of the journey. And without it, the depth of the relationships don't get to where they possibly could go without it. And so the fact that you work so hard to help couples find their way back to, as you talk about, getting back to zero. But what's interesting is that they're getting back to a deeper zero than they were able to be at before. And I really admire and respect the work that you're doing, Jayson.
Thanks, Tate. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to me. This whole, how do we help heal this divided world? Starts at home.
Yeah, man. Always a pleasure, Jayson, to have you on. Where can our listeners learn more about you and find your book?
Yeah, relationshipschool.com is a good place. My wife and I have a new podcast called Integrated. It's for couples. Those are Instagram at Jayson Gaddis.
Do you and your wife, I find, Sylvie and we've had an interesting journey over the years of working together. It can be a bit like alchemy where it's a lot of fire and pain, but there's gold on the other side. I think we're getting a lot better at it, but I'm curious, how's that journey been with you and your wife?
Dude, that's a whole podcast right there.
It's a podcast about the podcast.
That's right. All I can say is I relate. I played team sports as a kid, but they were all solo team sports, like tennis and golf.
Okay. Yeah.
Where I was on my own. So
right.
I kind of suck at collaboration.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so we're really good with our kids, but come to business stuff, it's chunky. And she's way better at it than I am. So I'm coming along though, man. I'm getting better.
Well, once again, man, always appreciate your honesty, your authenticity, your experience and expertise, man. And Jayson, I look forward to finally meeting you in person in a few weeks, man. Truly.
Dude, I'm stoked. Yeah, thanks again, Bryan. Thanks, guys, for helping the brothers out there.